What's the take of life for a hateful lie? Take listen once again, 'cause we find ourselves in the same singing lullaby. Hello, Stephen. I'm just getting a few things set up right quick. Thank you so much for hopping in and attending. I'm just about to turn on the Facebook live stream. Let's see, we'll get this going. Hi. Looks like Brenda just hopped in. There's a Jill that just hopped in. Thank you guys so much for signing up and attending today. I'm just turning on a Facebook live stream and then we'll get going right away today. I hope everyone's having a wonderful, wonderful morning. What? Because the users opted out of the platform. User opted out of the platform. I've never seen that error before. Users opted out. All right. Well, it looks like Facebook Live doesn't want to work for us today, so that's okay. If you guys could, while we're kind of waiting for more people to join the call today, if you can introduce yourselves in the chat, just so that we have kind of an idea of, are you at home? Are you still at the office? Or what do you do? And that way we can kind of tailor today's presentation a little bit to your at-home circumstances. We'd love to make sure that we're always relevant to everything going on. Looks like a Christina Ward just joined the webinar as well. Thank you so much. Once again, if you guys can just introduce yourselves in the chat and we'll talk and work through things. I'm just checking on the Facebook Live settings to make sure that we can do that. It's a beautiful day outside today. I hope everyone's going outside at least a little bit to walk and to enjoy this beautiful, beautiful weather. Let's see here, published events, tools, Creator Studio. All right, looks like Stephen Herving dropped in twice. Jill Welcho here with the Whitman County's Clerk Office, working remotely. Awesome, Jill. So glad that you have joined the webinar today. That's so great. So that's the cross-posting. Cool. Well, it looks like I will be having to play with the Facebook Live feature at a different date. That's a super bummer because we were hoping to broadcast this out a little bit more. But I do want to be respectful of everybody's time, and so we're going to get going pretty quickly. And so I'm just looking for my notes. Perfect. And then I'm gonna break this guy down so I can still see chat. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Participants. And where's my chat window? Return the meeting. Oh, where did that go? Ah, there it goes. Okay. Perfect, perfect. So now I am all set. It is 10:02. I was actually really surprised. It looked like several people from the county did sign up for today's webinar. I was really excited to see that many people hop in, and we will get going. First off, I want to once again thank everyone for signing up. I know this takes time out of your day. There's a lot of things going on. And so as a part of that, we are going to be raffling off a free bag of Camiac coffee at the end of the webinar. So make sure to stay all the way to the end. We'll run a random generator to select one of the attendees and get that sent out to you guys. Totally free from us and from Camiac Coffee Company. A little bit about me. I don't know how you guys might have heard of the webinar today, but I am a marketing web developer. I've worked in online advertising for a long time. Ooh, Office newspaper. Thank you, Christina. Thank you for mentioning that. I was a Washington State grad, but as soon as I graduated from WSU, they actually hired me on to do international marketing. I did a little bit of IT services. But then while I was there, I also became the department safety coordinator. So I was in charge of doing the safety coordinator meetings. I did the audits. I did the L&I. I helped facilitate a lot of things with it and facilitating purchases of equipment and helping to evaluate what was needed for individual workers. With that, I was also the building manager. So I got to really look for that accident prevention. Some LLCs have to make the accident prevention plan. And so I had to walk through that at the government university level, which does really apply to small businesses as well in a really, really nice way. That being said, today's presentation, I do have a team of individuals, and the things that we're going to be talking about today, we recommend to our team, we recommend to all the individuals, and we have been able to have no accidents, no injuries, thankfully no problems so far. So during the webinar today, please, please, please ask questions. Ask. I always want to make sure that what we're talking about is relevant, and if there are specific things that we can advise or suggest or be helpful, please ask questions. Absolutely, absolutely, please ask questions. We're going to be doing some ideas, some methods, and suggestions. Going to the next slide. Our heart is that you can make educated decisions for what you're going to do in your home office, or even when you go back to a regular office, how you can better improve that space. As a disclaimer, I am not a doctor, trained occupational therapist, or otherwise certified to give any form of medical advice. What I will be sharing today is our experiences, what we have recommended for purchases. Once again, I am not a doctor or certified for medical advice. I do know that there was one who registered for the webinar, so I'm really hoping that they hopped into the call today so we can bounce a few ideas off of them. But if you do have problems or immediate pain, oh, hey, Mandy is here, awesome. Mandy Denning runs a massage and physical therapy office locally. So Mandy, I may ask you a few questions in the chat because I am not a doctor. I am sharing experiences and how we usually run offices and what I did at Washington State University when I worked there. So looking at content overview, and be looking at basic body form, your desks, your chairs, and your peripherals. And what we mean by peripherals is your mouse and keyboard that you are coming to love, and anything else that might assist. And we're going to be going through a lot of scenarios and kind of pinpointing different things about them. Once again, if you do have questions, please ask them in the chat. Andrea, it is our pleasure to get this set up. Thank you so much for doing it in the chat. And then when you guys are talking in the chat, please be sure to say that it goes to all panelists and attendees so that you guys are able to communicate in there together. That being said, I will probably always recommend to just buy one of these. This is made by Acer, the computer company. And even though I may recommend something like this, it's $10,000. None of us are really buying that. And even in this type of scenario, this may look like a dream, but there are issues that I would point out that I don't like. The main one being that with this type of chair is that you're actually cutting off circulation on those feet. And so even those little nuanced pieces we're going to be focusing in on today. So when we talk about basic body form, we're referring to your head, neck, shoulders, arms, elbows, knees, and toes. If you have a small child like I do, you've probably been singing that song quite a bit. And those are radically, radically important to take care of for the long term. A lot of people use these types of graphs to kind of show, proper form. And this is a sitting and this is a standing form. There's not enough information in this, and this is also a 90-degree structure. And there can be some issues with that. So this is another graphic if you're going on and you're searching, okay, what is the best ergonomic office? A lot of the old adages do apply of, hey, we want to keep your back and your torso relatively straight. We do want to keep your elbows at a 90-ish degree for the most part. And we do want your hips and everything to be supported and comfortable. The thing that's nice on this one that we really like is that your eye level is about the top of the monitor. And that is really, really important. The moment you're cranking your neck down, especially at a laptop, you are creating strain on your neck and your shoulders. And it can also mess with your eyes as well. But if you have your monitor set too high, maybe you're trying to make a more ergonomic setup and then you just raise your monitors higher, well, then you are then cranking your neck up and can cause different strain. In this scenario, I'm actually not a huge fan of this type of chair for two reasons. One of them is that in this chair, the arms are not adjustable. We always want to be looking for adjustable arms. The other thing to note is with the way that the posture and the sitting is, you can begin to cut off circulation in your legs, which can cause other long-term problems than just the compression and the weight that you're throwing onto your back. So even with this diagram, this is kind of what I will usually recommend to someone in my team. The 90-degree angle, there's been research that says, oh no, don't sit at 90 degrees. That puts extra pressure and compression into your spine. Well, okay. And then the cool thing was 120 degrees / 120, 135, kind of in that range, as you can see that this gentleman is doing. And with that, even in there, there's some research that implies that that might not be the best. When standing desks became a really big trend, probably I think 5 to 8 years ago, whereas when I saw it become really mainstream, everyone was like, oh my goodness, this is the best, this is the right way to do it. And then probably about 6 months later, after it became mainstream, people were reporting other issues related to trying to stand all day. So then we ask, okay, well, what is the right thing or the best thing to do? And the best thing really is a dynamic approach where you're not standing all day and you're not sitting all day. I have found that when I've recommended to my teams to aim for somewhere between 100 and 135 degree sitting angle, that has performed the best for our specific teams. Now, depending on your chair or your body structure, that may be different. So please, if you are really wanting to get serious into this, ask your safety reps if you have an HR group. They should be able to advise more specifically for you as an individual. For our team, we've found that the 120, 135 works really, really well. And even in that, with this graphic and this image, I don't necessarily recommend everything. And specifically looking at, once again, the arms on this chair are not adjustable. His arms are also much higher than his keyboard, which can cause other issues. Do you see how his wrist is having to bend down lower? And then Andrea, in regards to feet flat on the floor or on a footrest, would you recommend women wearing heels to use the footrest due to the angle our feet are already in? That is where I would say to keep an extra pair of slippers in the office and switch to them and then use a footrest. And I do have some footrest recommendations towards the end of it that are related to shoes and non-shoes. I always recommend to, if you can, have maybe some Crocs or more comfortable slippers to just have under your desk that you can swap to. I even at home, I have a pair of indoor shoes with a footrest, and that is my preference. And then looking back at this chair, the other thing that's happening is the way the chair is angled and sloped, it is actively cutting off circulation to your calf and to your ankle and your feet. Really be aware of this. And even for your car vehicles, that can be a major concern. And so then we are going to go to another graph that kind of illustrates this. So work through it, find what best. The other thing I really like about this, the chair for the one on the right, is the neck support. Now, not everyone will lean back in their chair enough to use the neck support. However, it is really helpful in the long term. So this is from the L&I website from Occupational Health and Safety, and I do have links to their training and to their PowerPoints at the end of this. When we send out the notes, you'll have access to all of that. They actually have a really good training that I appreciated a lot when I was going through and prepping for this, and also when I worked at WSU. The main question is, what's wrong with the kitchen table? And this kind of identifies what we had just talked about in those chairs, is that when your screen is too low, you're then looking down and creating a lot of neck strain. When your keyboard's too high, it's tilting your hands and wrists up. And we're going to talk about ulnar deviation and some of those other keyboard injuries that can occur. You also have this hard edge that's happening on the table right below the elbow, which will cut off your circulation into your hands and fingers. And then in this chair, there's no back or lower lumbar support. And honestly, to me, it looks really uncomfortable. And so then if you're working from home, the other thing you might be tempted to do with a laptop is working on the couch. But then you realize, oh man, my couch might not be comfortable enough, or my laptop doesn't sit well on my lap. Oh man, this is even worse because you are just curving out your spine. There's no support. Your head is tipped down, creating extra strain on your neck and your shoulders. And the other thing I would really warn, especially for males, is if you're like my dad, you have a huge fatty wallet that you just slip into your back pocket and sit on. That will create a shift and mess up your back and into your hips in ways that can be really, over an extended period of time, damaging to your body. We got to take care of our bodies. We're all saying indoors to keep our bodies safe. So then let's keep ourselves safe from the enemy within, so to speak. So this guy clearly needs a desk. And so then you might ask, okay, what is the best desk or the right desk for you? This is an answer you're going to hear a lot today, is that it kind of depends. It depends what is comfortable for you, what works for you. One thing I would take time to mention is to organize your desk. Sometimes the problem isn't the type of desk. Sometimes it's just needing to have a clean desk and a clean space to work from. And that can really go a long way. And so standing desks are kind of the cool and hip thing to do, so I did want to specifically address them. Excuse me, I just needed to drink a little something. Looking at them, there are a lot of pros and cons. And in my mind, I'm not a standing desk person. I tried it for a long time, and it did not work for me. One of the pros is that it does burn on average about 140 calories per hour, which, hey, that's actually pretty cool. Just standing will help you do that. It can help you be more engaged in work. It can decrease task switching time. And the nice thing is prices have dropped, and we're going to look at a couple models together of standing desks. What I found when I was doing it and what my team has noticed is that when they do a standing desk, they tend to snack a lot more. And depending on the types of snacks you use, you might actually be intaking more calories than you're burning. So that might be something to look into. The other thing is that you will get tired faster. And then when you get tired, you're going to be really tempted to buy a stool or a standing pad or other things that might assist you. So then, okay, well, was this really an economical thing to do? Maybe not, maybe not. The other thing that can do is when you're standing all day, it does compress the spine, which can lead to different lower back issues. The other thing that can happen is varicose vein development, deep vein thrombosis, and then heart health concerns. So if we thought sitting at a desk was going to kill us, well, standing at a desk might kill us. So what I do recommend, and I think what a lot of professionals that I've heard do recommend, is to get up and move, take breaks, please stretch, and if you have the opportunity, use a sit-stand system that will help you. Hey, at times you need to sit, at times it's great to stand. It's really important to walk through that. And so here's a picture of a guy, well, two guys, and we're going to look at both of them standing. And this guy reveals the exact problem that can occur with a standing desk is when you get tired, you will begin to lean on the desk. And if you lean on the desk, if you look at his elbows, he's cutting off circulation. He's putting a good portion of his weight on his elbows and into his shoulders and creating additional problems in the long run. Remember, we just talked about standing too much will compress your spine, but now you're putting strain on your shoulders, elbows, and arms. The other thing, if you notice his stance and his positioning, he's throwing the rest of the weight on one leg. And so then he's going to tire out and exhaust those legs, and then his hip is going to then compensate and then create additional pain. If we look at the guy in the far background, that this might be a little bit more revealing for you. He doesn't have a standing pad, so his feet in those slippers are going to get really, really tired and exhausted fast. And he has already dropped all weight onto one of his legs, once again, throwing extra weight on his hips. But he's using proper form for the most part. His eye level is pretty good with his monitor. I would say he should lower his desk a little bit, just so that it's not making sure just to not cut off circulation at any point. There are problems with sit stands, and you do need to be observant. That being said, they have gotten a lot better in pricing. Monoprice is a company that has some pretty, what we might call like generic, but fairly high quality items. They're kind of like an online Costco almost. And this is a sit stand system that can raise and lower. Sometimes I'm not a big fan of these because they can be a little bit on the flimsy side. We want to always avoid things that are flimsy, because if you're putting your weight on it, or if you're putting the weight of your computer unit or monitors or other devices, you want to make sure that it can support that. So one that we've personally experienced recently came directly from Costco. Costco has the Trisanti adjustable height desk. This does have an electric motor, which I'm not the biggest fan of. Hydraulics is better. But once you get into a hydraulic sit-stand desk, those are closer to $500, $600. So this is, on the left side is what it looks like in Costco down. The picture on the right is actually my wife's setup at home. She works in IT at the University of Idaho, And with that, she's now working full-time from home. And this was her immediate request. She wanted a sit-stand desk that she could hit one button and it raised up, and hit one button and lowered down. The thing I really like about this desk is it's all steel construction. That being said, I had to ask my neighbor before the quarantine stuff happened to help me carry it down our stairs, because it is very heavy, it is very sturdy, and it is going to last. And that's what we really want to look for. Just as you would any other desks, you want it to last. This is an investment for your workplace. And once again, to me, $300 for a all steel construction, electric motor with a glass top and buttons, $300 is a very reasonable price, very reasonable price. If you're working on government contracts, you've probably seen that these can range anywhere from $1,500 to $3,000, depending where you're buying from. And so $300 for an all steel construction looked very good to me. To review and recap, hydraulics are good, but expensive. Don't get something flimsy. Be really careful because there are desk converters that you can buy. They're in that $60 to $80 price range. They are really flimsy. They're meant maybe for a laptop. We don't like them, and they do tend to break. So that'd be my concern to throw out there. So then, okay, so we've talked about basic body mechanics. We've talked about desks. Chairs. What's the right chair for you? Once again, it depends. I really like this model of chair because it does have the adjustable height, tilt, lumbar, arm heights that you're able to adjust. Some of them will even adjust how far the arm goes out, which is really cool. I like that function a lot. There are adjustable seat angles for where the angle will sit. And then sometimes the seat will be able to move forward or back, and then have that additional neck support. This model has all of those features, and this model is the Herman Miller Aeron chair. If you get it with all the bells and whistles, it is between $1,400 and $1,600. Herman Miller chair is considered just like the Primo Cadillac Escalade. This is the chair that you absolutely want. That being said, I understand we're not Silicon Valley. We don't own any of these chairs. I have tried to scour eBay for a cheap one. If you're struggling with that investment, I'd say you're okay. But let's look at some of the features and how we want to do it. One of the things I would note with this chair is that it is a mesh bottom. Anytime you're looking at chairs that have the thick padding, your padding's going to wear out within a year to year and a half. They just don't make chairs the way they used to unless you're buying maybe a steel case brand. However, when you do a ergonomic or basically a safety compliance steel case chair, those are running between $600 and $1,000 depending on which model you're looking at. And so those can be still very expensive, especially if you're buying it from home or for home use, and if your employer is not helping to reimburse that a little bit. The chair that we've found the best luck with for recommending for home and for office use is the Staples Hyken Mesh chair. Once again, this model has the arm raising and lowering. It does have the height. It does have back and lumbar. The recline on it is very comfortable. It has 3 levels of recline, and it does have that neck support. And the nice thing about the neck support is if you look, it's actually sticking out from the chair a little bit. And so then you're able to make sure that you're using that neck support feature, or at least it's more readily available than in some other chairs. Sometimes you can get these chairs a little bit cheaper. I was able to purchase mine for $169 last year. The $229 is what it was priced at in the last 2 days. But they do put these on sale. Things to watch out for. You've probably seen like these like race car bucket seats that are supposed to be gaming and ergonomic. They are mostly cheap quality. unless you're buying one from, I believe the brand is called Ergotron or a few others, those ones are $350 to $400 plus. Those are worth the money because they are actually well constructed. When you're looking in the sub $300 range for the racing gaming chairs, the padding is cheap. The faux leather is really cheap and will begin to break within a month or two. Once again, on this model, the arms don't raise and lower. And unless you're planning on sleeping in your chair, that neck support is 100% useless. And the only thing that's really adjustable in this model that I'm showing on the screen is the height. We want to make sure that we have all those features so that we can get the right setup for your desk or for whatever unit that you're using. I know that some people do like these kneeling chairs where you put your knees here and you sit on that back part. I've heard nothing but circulation cutoff and other pain problems. Mandy might be able to chime in on that one. I've never heard anything good. That's been my experience when I've tried to use them. But I would avoid it. They're uncomfortable and they do and can break very easily. The construction on them isn't always the best unless you buy a more expensive version that's just better metal. The last two is really just saying, let's see here, Mandy says, I haven't known anyone that has used one. Yeah. I've tried them. I've known a couple people, and it is an awful experience. I think I lasted about 10 minutes. It was so uncomfortable. When we're looking at folding chairs and maybe your kitchen room table chairs, once again, they're not providing your lumbar support. And really, when you think about it, your folding chair and your dining room chairs are not meant for a 2-hour, 3-hour, 4-hour session of sitting. They were never meant to be that. They were never designed to be that. So don't expect great results from those, and we just wouldn't recommend that. Feel free, once again, in the chat to ask any questions as we're going along. I do love feedback. I do love interactions and engagements. And if you have a question, odds are someone else probably has the same question. So feel free to drop that in there. When we get into computer equipment peripherals, what is the right keyboard? What is the right mouse for you? I'll admit probably not this one. This is the OrbiTouch. Those are about $400. If it looks a little bit too weird, it is a little bit too weird, but it is based on a lot of ergonomics and full body motions and full body mechanics. They are really cool. There's some videos that are linked at the end of this presentation if you want to look at this model more specifically. But when we start looking at ergonomic keyboards, there's kind of various levels or tiers of keyboards that are in this. At the basic level is the Microsoft Wireless Sculpt. They have radically changed the way that these kind of waved or curved keyboards operate. I like these newer models a lot better than the old ones that felt like you just had to almost hug it because of how big it was and how wide it was. We have changed, the designs have changed. This does have the wrist rest. It is lightly curved, so it is a more natural position. It also is spreading out the keyboard a little bit more. And what that does is it prevents, I believe it's called ulnar deviation. I have a photo of that later, where you're putting your hands closer together. And when you're doing this motion, you're putting additional strain on your wrist, your elbow, and everything else. And so when you're in that mode, it can actually really damage your wrist and cause carpal tunnel. When you're using a keyboard that's similar to this, it spreads it out more and makes it a lot easier on your hands and your wrists. The other big thing for these, and a key feature, is pressure sensitive keys. And what that means is that your space bar will be much more difficult to press in than your Z or X key. And the reason being is that your thumb is hitting the space bar, right? And so you can have a little bit more force in that. But if your pinky finger is trying to reach for your Z, X, or C keys, those are going to require a much lighter touch to activate the key. And so they've basically calibrated the keyboards to be easier to use for your hands. The next level is gaming, and I want to be a little bit clear on this one. Don't let the lights fool you on this. When we get into the pro level tier of gaming equipment, this is equipment that is meant to be used and abused for 4 to 8 to 12 hours a day. And it is meant for and designed to be used ergonomically for that amount of time. In this model, this one is intentionally a slim keyboard and slim key layout. This one doesn't have your 10 key on the side. And the reason being is, once again, that ulnar deviation. We're trying to avoid putting our hands in an awkward position. But if you're using your mouse on a consistent basis, you need to avoid going too far out with your arms. So then you have a slim keyboard and your mouse in a pretty good positioning for you to use for an extended period of time. And if you're wondering, okay, well, does that hold up in an office space work environment? Most of the people that use this type of equipment and the types of people that this is meant for is 8 hours a day with people doing 300 plus actions per minute for that amount of time. Now, granted, there's breaks in between, but when you're looking at 300, 350 actions per minute, that includes your mouse clicks as well. Sometimes the gaming equipment is actually just right. So if you're walking through Walmart, if you can, or if you're seeing flashy things, give it a go, give it a try, see if it feels okay. Just because it's flashy doesn't mean it's not ergonomically fit for your workspace. Once we get into the specialized keyboards, you're going to see a lot of really funky things. This keyboard is really meant for those angles, and once again, spreading it out to prevent that ulnar deviation, and then having everything pressure sensitive. Now, this one is meant to help fix, I believe it's called, oh gosh, I want to say lateral deviation, but I'll correct myself here in a little bit. And this model runs at 339, and they're pretty good. The other one that has been featured a lot is the safe type keyboard. And you're probably thinking to yourself, oh my goodness, what in the world? And the idea for this one being is that instead of having your hands out like this, you're putting them out like this and still able to type. And sometimes to do your keyboard shortcuts, you need those little mirrors on the side because it is such a unique design. And what this does is it makes it so that you're not pinching your nerves that are in between. And I have a graphic to show that a little bit later. This one runs at about $275 on Amazon. I wish I could say to test it and check and see. Not many stores carry these, but go ahead, read reviews, check the videos. I do have videos to each of these products at the end. It's in the notes. So if you do want a larger review, an overview of these products, that is made available at the end. Yeah, so the 3 damaging postures of a keyboard that we're looking to avoid is ulnar deviation, extension, and pronation. Extension was the one I was trying to think of. And so ulnar deviation is when we're putting those hands together like I've been talking about. We want to make sure that we avoid that as much as possible, just because of the amount of strain that that one does cause. The other one we want to avoid is extension. And that's where if you have your keyboard angled too much, sometimes on a laptop, if you've angled your laptop upwards, or if your wrist rest is too big, extension can cause other problems. The other one is pronation. And that's where if your keyboard is sitting too low, you're adding extra strain on your elbows, into your wrist, and into your fingers and your hand. And that's going to make more sense in a little bit. We're going to talk about how to troubleshoot pain problems. And so the safe type that was kind of built like this, when you're using a keyboard, you actually are twisting your arm out. And if you do that improperly and with ulnar deviation for extended period of time, you're going to sit there and pinch your muscles and your nerves on the inside of your forearm. That is one of the primary causes, as far as I understand it, of carpal tunnel. And you can exacerbate your carpal tunnel problems by not fixing these or looking at different keyboards. And so we want to be really, really careful with that. The other thing to look at is your mouse. How do you use your mouse? Are you full palming the mouse? Are you just kind of like clawing at it? Or do you only use your fingertips? I'm actually on the far right of the spectrum where I'm actually just using my fingertips. And there's different mice that are going to be better for each of these types of hand grips. With the one on the far right, I usually aim for something that is a little bit more ambidextrous. It can be used in your left hand or right hand, and it's usually a much lighter mouse. If you're someone on the far left, well, then you might get some extra use out of buttons or shortcut keys that are going to be on the side of the mouse. Logitech has a great mouse that is linked at the end of this presentation that walks through how to have your hand vertical, so we're preventing that ulnar deviation, but then also provides extra support. They do tend to be heavier with the full palm, because if you're full palming the mouse, then it's going to feel cheap if it doesn't have weight in it. And that's kind of just a little mental thing that's there and exists. But do, if you can, once again, I know we have to be careful, sanitize, wipe everything. If you do have an opportunity, maybe you have roommates or kids or people with different types of mice, try them out. Try all of them out. If you can, I think it's called a mischief of mice. If you can test a mischief of mice, go for it. So footrests, Andrea asked about that earlier. This is the type of footrest. I bought mine from IKEA. It was about $15. I have this model, and I actually love this model. And I love it for shoes. A lot of my shoes that I wear tend to be more flatter. And even if I'm using my more running shoes, this actually feels really pretty good. And I'm able to, on the fly, adjust it, because sometimes I am in a 90-degree sitting position. And so then I can use the footrest at 90 degrees. Or if I'm adjusting and I'm like, oh gosh, I have to write a really long email or a presentation, I'm going to go into the 120-degree mode. And then I can, just with my feet, easily adjust this. I 100% recommend any kind of variations of these types of footrests. As a bare minimum, get it, it helps. I've never not known it to help someone. Well, okay, let me rephrase that. These can be troublesome if your desk is really small. That can be a hindrance. So do find one and make sure that you measure appropriately for your space. Now, if you're at home and you don't wear shoes indoors, in my family, we grew up never having shoes indoors. That was a huge no-no. I do recommend the footrests that have these little bumps on them, because that can help stimulate the feet a little bit and to help keep circulation going. And honestly, they just feel nice. I like them. And it feels a lot better than the flat one. Having a little bit of texture there, it just does feel nicer. This one is not as rock movable. It has a lot of adjustments, but it's not as adjustable as the $15 model one. But once again, if you're using shoes, this one is terrible for shoes. It's not my favorite. So one simple trick. And when I say trick, I'm not trying to trivialize any part of this, because when you're in pain, it hurts. It absolutely hurts. And I say that as someone, when I left WSU and worked out my basement for a number of years, I actually got to the point where this little notepad thing that I have here, it was too painful to even pick this up. I was in such just amazing pain. and I didn't know how to troubleshoot it. I did try homeopathic items. I did try taking some, not Advil, but Aleve to try and alleviate it, and nothing worked, nothing happened until I was able to learn how to troubleshoot what I was doing wrong, because I knew something was wrong, something was different, something was unusual. And so if something is hurting, look at the next movable part. And so what I mean by that, and this is where I learned this idea from, it's called Advances in Functional Training. Last I knew, it was a recommended textbook at Washington State University and the athletic training program. And that's how I learned about it, and how I learned how to fix a lot of things, not just in weight training, but in just functional movement. And so when we talk about troubleshooting, if your elbow is hurting, look at your wrist or look at your rotator cuff area. Look at the next moving hinge of your body, because odds are you're doing something wrong at either of these spots, that your elbow is now overcompensating and over-exhausting itself because it's doing something it was not meant to do. Likewise, if your ankle hurts, look at your heel/toes and your knee, because maybe there's something in the way that you're sitting or in your walking, your gait. Odds are, if your ankle is hurting, there's going to be something wrong in your toes that's not working right, or something in your knee, because once again, your ankle is having to overcompensate for something. So in my example, you've actually seen me do a wrong ergonomic thing this whole seminar, this whole time. And that is, I've been putting all of my weight onto this table and into my arm. And actually, that is what was causing my pain many years ago, was I would sit in my office chair and lean on one side while I'm reading emails or watching a training video or doing other things. And what was happening is I'm putting significant weight on my arms. My wrist is in a weird spot, and I'm jolting my shoulder up closer to my face, more so than it ever should be. So when I'm feeling pain down here and up here, wow, okay, I need to look at my next moving spot. My next moving spot was my elbow. What am I doing with my elbow? Well, I'm just leaning on my armchair. And so I literally had to remove the arms from my office chair for 3 months to help fix my sitting habit. I would have never have known to look for it, or known how to troubleshoot, or even observe what I was doing wrong, until I was like, oh, okay, I just need to look at my next moving thing. Fast forward, I now have a kid that only likes to be on my right side. For whatever reason, he hates to be carried on my left, but I still have to force him over onto my left side, because my bicep and my elbow began to hurt. And it was because it was overcompensating for my shoulder and my back, carrying this weight all the time. Now, he's only 30 pounds right now, but for an extended period of time, trying to get through a store or get through a parking lot or other things constantly, I was just overworking my arm, and I began to feel that pain again. And so whether you're in your office environment or in your regular life environment, this simple trick of diagnosing your moving joints of what's hurting can save you tons of pain, avoid paying for the random medicines that only treat the symptoms but not the actual problem. Granted, if you are in severe pain, please go see a doctor. Please go see a doctor. Go see Mandy. I'm sure she's able to help you and maybe even walk through some of this more so than me running a webinar can. Do not sit in your pain. That is probably the worst thing that you can do. Now, you do sometimes have to work through it in physical therapy and work through the pain. But if you continue to create methods that, oh, okay, you know, if I only lift the piece of paper this way, then it doesn't hurt. Well, okay, now my shoulders are both tensed up and I'm doing these types of motions that my body wasn't meant to do. I'm going to create more and more problems because I never addressed the original problem. And so be really thinking through how to fix these types of things. If you are looking for more information, once again, please do talk to your doctors. Labor and Industry is linked at the end of this slideshow. They do have a bunch of resources and trainings to walk through all of this. Go through the training. It's about an hour long, but it's another way for you to find and figure out ways to adjust. Andrea just wrote in chat, I had pain for months and now have permanent damage to my shoulders because my desk setup at a new job was not correct. Get help sooner than later. Absolutely, absolutely. And I think that's one thing I haven't stressed enough is that this is and can create permanent problems just by sitting incorrectly, by having an incorrect desk, or maybe you just need to evaluate how your height on your chairs are, or maybe the keyboard. I mean, if you're paying $60 or $80 for a new keyboard versus 30, 40, 50 years of pain, that keyboard is worth the investment. Please purchase the things that you need to make sure that you do not permanently damage your body. And that was my heart going into all of us working from home. Maybe we've used our home offices for 10 to 20 minutes at a time, not 4 hours at a time. It is a total shift and adjustment. And we have the opportunity to make our homes a real sanctuary for productivity. And so that being said, I am going to, on this backside, run a generator to select a winner for today. Give me just a moment to get that set up. We still have 9 attendees, which is awesome. Give me just a moment to get it set up. Random name picker. All right, so we have Andrea who's here, Brenda and Jill and Julia. Thank you guys so much for staying the whole time. We have Christina Ward. There's Mandy. Let's see here, who else? Mandy, and then Nicole, Ann, and then Stephen. Stephen, it looks like there's 2 Stevens that are logged into this. Is that the same device or are there 2 separate people? I don't want someone to lose out on this opportunity. If you just wanted to pipe into chat, if there is a Stephen and maybe someone else that's logged into today's session, I'll give you 5 or 6 seconds to pop into chat. Otherwise, we are going to get going. Okay, I am not seeing anything in chat. I'm going to go ahead and pick a random name. And the system is saying that Mandy, you are the winner of Camiac Coffee. I will be sending you an email here in a little bit so that we can get the right blend that you would like, and it will be free delivered. They are delivering on Fridays, so I'll be putting that order in today so that you can get it delivered free, sponsored by Camiac Coffee. Thank you guys so much for coming out today. This has been an awesome session. Thank you so much for attending. I do have citations for everything that we'll be sending those notes out. Mandy asks, do they have anything other than coffee? I don't drink coffee or tea. I will check in with you and see what they have. Last chance, is there anything else? Any other questions, comments, concerns, or things that we should note? Actually, Mandy, if you, I'm going to give you an opportunity. Would you like to say anything regarding what we've talked about today? Is it okay if I unmute you? Let me know in the chat. All right, so you should be able to talk now. Your video won't turn on, but you should be able to speak.
Oh, thank goodness, because I'm still in my PJs. I wanted to say that that was a great presentation. A lot of things that we have noticed with patients over the years is a lot of these overuse and poor ergonomics. A lot of people don't realize, even in their typical workstation, that there are things that can and should be adjusted. And my understanding is that all work, essentially any company is required to accommodate your request for help with that, to get things set up and help you work better. So at home, I would imagine that kind of extends there as well, but do the best you can, I guess, with what you have, and take whatever help they will give you. Because I can tell you right now, I've had a lot more pain and aches based on working from my dining room table, just like a lot of people. So
yeah,
great presentation. So I completely agree with a lot of those things. And massage, there's some I hope you don't mind if I do this, but we've got some
please,
stretches.
Please tell us about your business. Tell us about your business, what you do.
Okay.
And your services.
We've got our Facebook page, Healing Hands Massage Clinic, and I've only got 2 videos on there now, but I've got a couple of tips and tricks for helping with kind of those forward rounded shoulders that we get. And that happens even with people working in their regular work environments, let alone at home. And then right now I also have a video up there about like clenching jaw and how to relax that jaw.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And I'm going to be adding a few more videos to our YouTube channel and posting them to our Facebook page about some more kind of stretches and self-massage techniques. So, yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, and that was something I forgot to bring up and mention, is that even with our cell phones, like I've noticed a lot of people are getting those rounded shoulders. They're cranking their neck down to look down at their cell phone. Where in my mind, they should just be bringing it up higher so that they're just looking at it straight on, because that is creating a lot of tension and strain. Isn't that right?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. And kids too. So not just adults, but kids. Like I have been letting mine have a lot more screen time, and I'm reminding them anytime I see to make sure they don't have their head just hanging forward, staring down at the tablet.
Yeah. Yeah. And at that point, people might need more glasses if you're having to strain to see it. Cool. Thank you so much. And I do recommend everyone to check out the Healing Hands Massage Clinic Facebook page for those videos. We got to take care of our bodies. If we're making sure that we're inside and not spreading coronavirus, then we need to make sure that we're staying healthy inside the home too. That being said, I am going to plug a couple other webinars that we're going to have coming up. Next week, we are going to have a group talk about the market and market valuations. We are going to be bringing on an interior designer to talk about how to make your home just more beautiful and make your workspace work for you, and some tips and tricks on how to adjust your space so that maybe you are working at the kitchen table, maybe you do have a space for an office. Let's see how we can provide some information to make this space work better for you. So we have that in the works. You guys will be receiving emails. Thank you so much, everyone, for attending. We are just so excited and thankful to have the opportunity to reach out and talk with everyone. So have a wonderful, wonderful day. Enjoy the beautiful weather if you can. This is Pullman Marketing, and take care.